In just 20 minutes, I created this entire long 3D animation with AI.
This isn't you, Kenji!
You don't know what I've become.
You're still my brother! Something's wrong.
The Tree of Souls.
Our battle, it's angering the ancients! It's not too late to come back home.
You know I can't do that.
Everything you just saw, from the characters to the scenes to the voices, was generated with AI. But here's the thing. Most people still think that the only way to create long AI animations is to stitch together a bunch of short clips. But there's another method that almost nobody's talking about, and this technique will extend your scenes smoothly for however long you want. So in this video, I'm going to break down the entire scene extension method step by step. And by the end of this video, you'll have the exact workflow to create high-quality 3D animations that can be extended for however long you want. But before we even think about generating the video, we have to create our characters. To make sure our characters are as consistent as possible, we'll create a hero shot that shows them from the front, side, and back. To do this, we'll be using OpenArt because it allows us to use all AI models in one place. Once we're on the homepage, we'll click on Image. For the model, we'll use Nano Banana Pro, since it gives us the best character consistency with the highest quality. To generate our first character, this will be our prompt. Our hero will be called Kai, and I want him to have a sci-fi samurai feel to him. To nail the reference sheet, I've made sure to mention details about his physical appearance, the layout of the image, and the animation style. Now, we'll select the 16:9 aspect ratio along with 4K resolution. And after a few generations, this one is exactly what I had in mind. But what good is a hero without his villain counterpart? So for our second character, we'll be keeping all settings the same, but we'll be using this prompt instead. This character will be called Kenji, and I want him to be the villainous brother to our hero, Kai. To help make this obvious, I've used a black and red theme to contrast against Kai's white and blue theme. And after generating a couple times, I couldn't ask for a better result. Now that we have our two characters fleshed out, it's time for step 2, generating our starting frame. But this is where most people go wrong, because for our first scene, we want to give the audience the context of where and when the story is taking place. This is called the establishing shot. So we'll keep all settings the same and we'll use this as our prompt. I've chosen to use a wide camera shot to capture the environment, which features a glowing cherry blossom tree in the center. This will help with the continuity between scenes because it will be where the next shot takes place. Lastly, I've mentioned the animation style description that matches our characters, and the result was exactly what we wanted. Now, we're ready to take this image and generate our first scene. To do this, we'll click Video and make sure we have Image to Video selected. For the model, we'll be using Kling 3.0 because it has the best camera control and prompt adherence. Now, we'll upload the start frame we just generated and pair it with this prompt. There's no need to reinvent the wheel here. Something slow and smooth should capture the atmosphere of the scene. Now we'll set the duration to 4 seconds, the quality to Pro, and the audio to On, and this is the result. So we've set the stage for our story, but now we need to introduce our characters. Our second scene will drop right into the action where Kai and Kenji are in the middle of an altercation. For our start frame, we'll go back to Image and upload both reference images of our characters. Then we'll use this prompt to capture the heat of the moment between the two brothers. This result is exactly what we're looking for. Now we'll go back to Video and upload this as our start frame. For the prompt, we're using the multi-shot prompt technique that allows us to segment the generation into different shots, each with their own purpose. We're starting with the medium shot of the clash, followed by a few over-the-shoulder shots to capture each character's responses, and then finishing off with a wide shot to show both characters splitting apart. For this one, we want to make sure that our duration is set to 12 seconds so it matches the pacing of our prompt. And after generating a few times, this result nailed the concept.
You don't know what I've become.
You're still my brother!
But now that we've got a solid scene with our two characters, it's time to extend this scene while keeping characters consistent. To do this, we're going to be using the final frame of our scene as the first frame for our next scene. And to have even more control, we'll generate an end frame to help guide the AI. But first, we want to scroll to the end of our scene, right-click, and select Save Video Frame As, because we'll be using this as a reference image to generate our end frame. Now, we'll go back to Image, and we'll upload both character references along with the last frame of our scene. Then we'll use this prompt since we want our scene to end with our characters shifting focus from each other to the cherry blossom tree in front of them. And this is the result. Now we have everything we need to extend our scene. So we'll open our original scene and click Grab Last Frame. This will automatically upload the last frame of our scene as the first frame for our next scene, continuing exactly where we left off. Then we'll upload our end frame where the brothers are focused on the tree. For our prompt, we're using 4-second segments, although we don't want any hard cuts for this scene. And after a couple generations, here's what we get.
The Tree of Souls.
Our battle, it's angering the ancients!
But we're not done just yet, because we're going to be extending this scene even further. And this time, we're really going to be testing the limits of Kling 3.0. So we'll save the last frame of our scene and then go back to Image. Now, we'll upload both character references along with the last frame we just saved. Then we'll use this prompt to capture the moment from the front view at a high angle, almost as if it's from the perspective of the tree. And I couldn't have asked for a better result. I love how the tree lines the frame of the shot, which really gives a cinematic feel. Now we'll open our last scene and click Grab Last Frame to use it as the start frame for our new scene. Then we'll upload the end frame that we just generated. For our prompt, we've split the scene into 3 segments. In the first shot, the camera skims across the ground and passes between the brothers before reaching the tree in the second shot, where it climbs up and perches itself at the top. The last shot is where the camera quickly turns to regain focus onto our characters. Now, we'll just change our scene duration to 9 seconds. And although this is an ambitious scene, the result is unbelievable. But what if I told you we're going to extend this scene yet another time? The only difference? This time, we're not using an end frame. There are times when it's actually better to extend scenes without an end frame, so that the AI has the creative control to surprise you. Of course, we're still going to grab the last frame of our previous scene and use a multi-shot prompt to guide it. We'll start by continuing the shot from the previous scene, then we'll transition to an over-the-shoulder shot to capture Kenji's reaction, followed by a medium shot as Kenji dissolves into smoke, and finally an extreme close-up of Kai as he exhales in disappointment. We'll set our duration to 12 seconds to match our prompt. And after a few generations, here's the final result.
Too late to come back home.
You know I can't do that.
Once we're happy with all of our scenes, it's time for the last step, which is to edit everything together. I usually use CapCut to edit my animations, but you can use whatever editing software you're most comfortable with. So we'll just drop in all of our scenes and do some basic trimming to make sure everything lines up seamlessly. Then we'll add in any extra transitions, sound effects, music, or finishing touches to really bring everything together. And after finishing the edit, here's what we end up with.
This isn't you, Kenji!
You don't know what I've become.
You're still my brother! Something's wrong.
The Tree of Souls.
Our battle, it's angering the ancients! It's not too late to come back home.
You know I can't do that.
So that's how to create long 3D AI animations without losing character consistency. But we can even take this a step further, because there's actually something called the grid method, which allows us to create long AI films from just a single prompt. Sounds crazy, right? But you can click the video on screen to see exactly how it works.